So vision boards. Vision boards are one of the hot topics that happen every time this year. In terms of how does your vision board create your 2024? Is there a difference between a male vision board and a female vision board? And this was actually an interesting topic that we started to discuss because one of the things that we do here inside Truth Bomb Academy is we teach specifically female entrepreneurship because we recognize that females need a different language in learning how to build their business, one that allows them to tap into their creative genius, their pleasures, their relaxations, their cycles, their flows, which is not taught in the traditional male business training that we have access to. So that's the topic of today, is vision boards and how men and women differ in having a vision board and what needs to be put on your board, women, that doesn't need to be on a man's board. So here's where we go. For those that don't know me, my name is Chef Katrina. I am a co-founder, co-creator of Truth Bomb Academy, specifically helping women unlock their millions. And I love bringing the fun and play around what it is and the different perspective of being a female in business as opposed to the traditional way I've been taught for how to get the success you want. But that success led me to burnout, led me to overwhelm. And even though I had my dream business, I still felt like a fraud inside of it. So I'm looking to shift that for women, helping them have that release around being a fraud and really understand how their approach to their business is really super, super important.
Yeah. My name is Heidi Muma. I'm also one of the co-founders here inside Truth Bomb Academy, and I love to help women to actually realize the profit in their business with an effective cash management system. It's always, I know when I was always looking at building a business and they talk about reinvesting in your business and how the first year is all about growth and building that business and getting that foundation. So you're constantly reinvesting into your business. Well, there comes a point where you need to stop reinvesting into your business, or even when the first product you sell, realize and take profit from that business, because that's, first of all, that's why we're in business, right? To create profit, to create that income. And it really makes you actually fall in love with your business when your business is creating that profit and you're taking that profit home and you're being fed by your business instead of you feeding your business.
Yeah, we were actually listening to that earlier today. We were watching, and we're always curious about what different women are teaching in terms of business. You know, some of it call it the monster, some of it call it the screen business, some people call it, you know, the life soul sucking business plan. There's a lot of different things we go through as entrepreneurs, because I do think a lot of times we just fall into entrepreneurship, right? Like our goal is to create a business that makes impact. We don't necessarily always have a clear vision how it's going to roll out. So we tend to dump or dive right in. Tell me how many of you have just kind of dove right into your business, knowing that you'll figure it out, right? And I hear this all the time from women as we talk about, we're going to figure this out.
It's figure outable.
It's figure outable.
It's figure outable.
Yeah, totally, right? So one of the things we wanted to talk about is the vision board, because this comes up a lot at this time of the year, right? Everyone talks about how important the vision board is. It's about manifesting. It's about creating the life you want and love. And over the last couple months, honestly, since December, we launched our Time Magic 2024. We were actually teaching women how to get back in touch with what they're honestly wanting to create. And we really started focusing in on feelings, sensations, mindfulness, really getting women back into their skin, I guess you could say again, right? And understanding what drives them in their business and letting them know it's okay to be there. So we were just discussing the world of vision boards because we were watching a training just a moment ago. It's another boot camp that's out there. There's like tons of boot camps or challenges out there. I swear there's like a boot camp challenge every other day around something.
It's like the fad thing to do right now is boot camps and 5-day workshops and those fantastic things. And they are fantastic. They are.
I do like the information.
I love the information. You always know. I mean, we've been in business for too long. But it was like, okay, well, as soon as it starts, I'm looking for what the upsell is.
Yeah, I'm looking for the offer.
I have to figure this out. What is their offer? What is their thing? And but it is, I love education. I love knowledge. I love, it's like the more I can learn, I'm always like, I know I can glimpse something from almost everybody who's teaching out there. I don't know it all.
Yeah.
And I'll never know it all.
Yeah.
But it's like, I love each different individual's perspective on on the marketing, on the business build out. And it's just like, and just to hear that, and but so often, so much of the rhetoric is the same. Everybody has their own twist, everybody has their personality added to it, which makes them unique and which makes their program more effective for some people than other people.
Right.
But it's but so often it's like I feel like they're spitting out the same rhetoric, the same the blueprint, the business blueprint.
Yeah, and it's the same business blueprint. Now, I'm not going to say the blueprint is wrong.
I think the blueprint has its purpose. I think it definitely has its purpose, because a lot of us, when we do have chaos in our business because we haven't created a business plan, we haven't, because we've often, like you said, we've been gifted the business. It wasn't something we created.
Yeah.
And so there is a sense of chaos.
Yeah.
And so I think having that blueprint that gives people that sense of calm, that sense of today's purpose is da 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 da. And it's like, and so I think the blueprint definitely has its purpose, but you have to move beyond the blueprint. There has to be something about the blueprint that you connect with.
Yeah.
How does this blueprint make you feel? How at the end of the day, when you're done with this blueprint, do you just have a feeling of satisfaction, or do you have a feeling of fulfillment?
That's a big difference too. The difference between satisfaction. Are you satisfied or are you fulfilled?
Yeah.
And I think that comes in looking at like different things around what it is to be a female entrepreneur.
And how many days do you wake up excited and thrilled to go work on a blueprint? I
never worked with people and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to build this blueprint. Now the analogy was made, and I do agree with this kind of analogy, right? Like if you were to build your dream home, you know, when you're building your dream home, you actually want to design it first, right? Like you don't just dive right into the house and say, here's a wall, we're gonna put this here, right there. Like you want to envision, experience, have that feeling around what you're creating, right? So if you're going to be designing your dream home, if you're going to design your life, right, you'd want to be the designer of your business.
Yep.
And so many times as female entrepreneurs, we don't design our business. We get handed a business or told we have an opportunity or told we can make $1,000 online or told we can work from home, or these are all the jobs that you can do from working from home, but we don't actually design that into our lives.
Right.
We just do it because it's a way to make money. And then there's the burnout.
But I love it. Okay, so get back to, so we're actually talking about vision boards.
Yeah, I know. We got off topic.
We go on tangents all the time.
But it all ties together.
It does. We bring it back and it all ties together because it's all about what you're creating. Whether that's your business, how you're purposefully creating your life.
Yeah.
And how does it make you feel? And I thought it was really fascinating to me as it's probably my third year doing this, and how my vision board has changed over those couple of years, because it's like, as we're talking about how like we want to feel about what we're doing, it becomes more about those feelings than things, than tangible items. And it was like, I think it's like my vision board has gone from like a dream house to who's going to be in that house. The dream vacation to Australia or wherever, rather than who's going to be on that vacation with me, who's going to be on that adventure with me. And it's just like, who am I going to make the memories with versus the items that the memories are being made around.
Yeah. Well, we get so, I think, you know, we've been gifted, again, the World Vision Board, right? And I remember a lot of the training that I first got was from like the book, The Secret. There was a gentleman that talked about vision boards, and I've heard vision boards for a long time. Like you should always have a vision board. You never know when it's going to come true. And the beautiful thing is, it's like, if you have this vision and you're being pulled towards it, right? You'll bring this into your life, right? And sometimes we don't know when it's going to come into our life. We don't know when it's going to happen. Like there's this magic and mystery around vision boards. But the other interesting thing is a lot of the vision board training that I've gotten over the years have all come from men, right? The vision board idea and a lot of what we've been given around this in terms of entrepreneurship and in the business world, it originated, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I am completely off board here, one of my viewers will definitely comment and say, no, that's incorrect. I'm totally okay with that. I want to be corrected around this if there's something different. But I feel like the vision board was created from the perspective of our men entrepreneurs. And the reason I say that is there's something that was interesting that happened as we continue to dive into the difference between the nuanced difference between being a female entrepreneur and being a male entrepreneur. And really like looking at, because we've gone down the pathway of like patriarchal, I'm like, whatever. But what we come to is it's perspective. And men don't know how women feel, and women don't know how men feel. We're not embodied in those bodies. We don't have that ability to go back and forth. So when you're looking at teaching business to women, you're coming from a completely male perspective. And the males we know are visual, right? There, you guys are visual. I mean, and we hear that all the time around everything you guys do. You're visual, you want to see everything, you want to like your vision board, that helps you get clarity. That helps you define, your pathway, your vision, because you guys are visual. The idea of seeing it. That's why the looking good is a big part of the male thing. How you guys dress, how that is. It's all about posturing, and it's all about presenting yourself in a respectable way. So it's for you, it's like, how do I look? Right. And what's interesting as we dove into this conversation for women, we discovered that it wasn't about how women looked. It's actually how women feel. Right. And so when you talk to a woman, it's like, well, how do you feel in that dress? A guy you'll go up to, it's like, how do you look in the suit? He's like, I'm looking sharp. Right. And if you go up to a woman, you ask her, how does it make her feel? And a lot of the times when we clothes shop and everything else, if the salesperson is really good and understands that, she goes, well, how do you feel in it? Because she recognizes that for women, they have to feel good in what they're wearing, right? When they walk into their house, women have to feel good about the environment they're walking into. When women are in business, we have to feel good about our business. And when you're looking at a vision board and you're only seeing images of things, my question is does that make you feel good? And I think what's interesting when we started diving into and looking at, and I think this is what's going to shift even in our training for vision board, is it's not so much about the vision. It's about like the sensation. It's about the experience. It's about pleasure. It's about, like you said, if I'm going to go on these trips, who am I going with?
Yeah.
Because it's not about just doing it yourself and saying, I accomplished that, right? That's not what we're looking for. We're actually looking for that experience as women. So the question then came up that we've done the feng shui board for quite a few years, right? So in the feng shui board, it talks about like the 9 sections of a board, of a vision board, that help bring and manifest things into our life, faster, right? Like it gets us focused on different areas of our life with, I think, the biggest piece of any of the boards that we create, whether it's visionary, whether it's sensation, whether it's the emotion you're trying to create. It's so important to still have you at the center because you are going to be the creator of this life you're living in, right? So what's interesting is they always talk about health and what's the other one? Health and what's in the center? It's health and
I always put like fitness.
Or it's like health and fitness. It's always around your health first and foremost, right? And I think we get so caught up in like the marketing BS around health. Right. But I really think that if, as women, what needs to be centered is our feelings about ourselves. Right. So how do we want to feel about ourselves? How do you want to notice and recognize yourself in the world? Right. Do you want to be someone that's, and there's so many different feelings out there. Are you happy? Are you excited? Are you, wanting to live your full life? Like, what does that look like? And it's not just about the health. The health is part of that. Right. Because when you feel good as a certain way as a woman, you're going to incorporate those changes into your life because you want to keep that feeling going in your life. You want the experience of good food. You want the experience of wearing nice clothes. Like you want that experience.
And it's important how you feel in those clothes.
Yeah.
Because when you're healthy, when you're, the healthy weight, not necessarily that you want to, a certain diet or whatever, but you just want to feel good in your clothes.
Yeah.
You want to feel like, you want to feel sexy. You want to feel beautiful. You want to feel, and certain materials make you feel that way.
Yeah.
And certainly how you feel in your own body makes you feel that way.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not even so much about your weight, as I've learned this year. It's more about how loving yourself and loving who you are. And it's like, and loving the body that you're living in,
yeah,
no matter what size it is. And it's like, you can always correct that. It's like, you can live in, the more you love yourself, the more you actually want to take care of yourself. And
True.
so it naturally happens more than just a forced diet per se. It becomes your lifestyle. It becomes who you are, because you feel good and you want to continue to feel good. So you're more conscious about what you put in your body.
Yeah. I think it's funny when I've worked with, because I've actually been in quite a few masterminds and they've been predominantly male, very few women in these masterminds that I'm part of. Because I guess we do want to get in that inner circle, right? We want to be in the know. We want to work with these guys. And I just remember every year we do these vision boards, and every year I'd see their vision board and I would be, it never felt right. Like I would look at their vision boards and say, your vision boards are wrong. Like I really wanted to say that, right? I was like, your visions are off. Like this is all wrong, right? Because it had them with like their head on a bodybuilder body, right? It had them with like the expensive car and the boat and this and that and everything else. And I was like, where's people in this, right? It felt so devoid. It was a bunch of things in people's lives, right? And what's fascinating when you look at the feng shui, it even asks you like, who's your family? Who's your creativity? Who are the people that are going to connect you in your life? Like, who are the people? And instead of focusing on the people, I see the men get so caught up in the things, the status, the prestige, right? These are really big words that we tend to use with a lot of our male dominant entrepreneurial training. It's all about, and women have egos too. So I'm not even saying it's about ego, because all of us have an ego. I'm sorry, that is yourself. And that is what you believe about yourself. So ego is what you all have. Yeah. We all have an ego, right? But what's interesting is it's about posturing, right? It's about peacocking. It's about providing. It's about protecting. Like men use very different words when it comes to like what their vision is. And because I think vision boards work really well for guys, because it gives them something to visualize. And beyond other things, like we know that men are stimulated visually.
Yep.
Everything about the world around them, if they see visually, it makes more for them. What's different about women is it's actually about the feel, and it's about all the senses. And what I typically see around women is that we create the dream home. We create the dream car. We put the head on the body. We talk about these health things and everything else. But then I had a thought, like, what if you were like somebody that wants nice things, what would it be like to go out and get the like a swatch of silk, a swatch of linen? Like, so I'm thinking for me, like really, I want a new wardrobe. That's one of my big things on my vision board, right? I want to have certain clothes that feel a certain way against my skin. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, why wouldn't I just go out and get swatches of linen and silk and the type of material that I want to wear on my body? Because to me, it's not about a certain style of clothing. It's more about the clothes that I want to wear, the fabric I want to have, right? When I was looking at creating my vision board this year, I really struggled with the center because it was all about fitness and health, right? And that still didn't feel right to me. And I said, what I want to feel is just happy. So I'm looking for a picture of me that's just blissfully happy, like laughing or whatever. And then what I want around that are moments in my life where I'm creating that, because I want more of that in my life, right? So it stopped being about the things, and it was more about what was the experiences I want to create. What were the feelings that I want to have in my life? Because if I tapped into my feelings, if I tap into that heart center as a female, I'm more likely to manifest and draw faster, because that is, for me, what we're discovering about women is that we are the sensory, we are the feelings, we are the emotions. And, using words like happy, excited, grateful, all those like feel good words that are out there for us, using broader colors, using texture and textile in our imagery, and just instead of having that flat two-dimensional image that so often we're told is how we're looking at this. Like, what if you created and added a little bit of fur or a little bit of glitter or a little bit of sequins, right? Like, what does that look like on your sense board, like your experience board, right? As opposed to just being a vision board, it's really about what pulls you. And for women, we don't tap into our own feelings and senses so much. So I love, like when we were doing our vision board, I did make a comment about yours, which I thought was really interesting, because I watched you build out her board, right? And I kid you not, it was the most amazing thing to see because I've not been surrounded by enough women creating vision boards. I guess that's part of the thing too. But it was more family focused. It was all about the people. So every single piece of those 9 feng shuis was about how she felt and the creation and the feeling you wanted to have in there.
Yeah, because it's all about I don't want, I guess it's, and I guess, I'm showing my age too. It's like I'm over the things. It's more about the experience. And I'm also, it's like, and I'm also extremely, and I love the anticipation of things. And so I'm constantly creating things in my mind. Now I get it. Most of the things in my mind aren't going to happen because they change all the time too. It's like I create one thing and I'm like, oh no, now it's going to be this. But it's like, so I'm constantly, so it's like, but it's not so much. It's like, I don't want to just go see Europe for the sake of seeing Europe.
Yeah.
I want to see Europe and experience Europe with my dear friends and family.
Yeah.
And it's just like, for me, it's all about the memories being created, the moments, that people will remember about you long after you're gone. And it's like, but it's about creating those feelings. And for me, that's what it's all about. I don't want to, I'm not, and I am very much an extrovert. So that probably speaks very loudly too. It's like I have not one bit of introverted in me. And so if I were to go do something on my own, I'm not happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, in human connection for a lot of things of what we're doing in life, we want that human connection, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just I think with women, because we connect with humanity, we birthed most of humanity, if not all of it, right?
Yes.
I know there's been some science out there that would say differently, but for the most part, women have birthed humanity. And inside of that, we're connected to each other, probably more so than our male counterparts are, right? Because we have the experience of that connection. We have that experience of creating life. And so when you look at what is a vision board, I actually don't like the word vision board anymore. It's like, it doesn't actually encompass what women look at when they're looking at what do I want in my life, right? And this is why we kind of laugh and dream. And I remember I used to make fun of this when women would have they would envision their wedding. They would get the dress they want, the ring they want, all this stuff. But it's about the feeling they're creating inside of that, which I thought was really interesting because I had been so removed into the male mindset around business and everything else that I thought it was ridiculous that women spent that type of time creating moments in their life, creating their house, creating the look and feel of what they want.
We're really going to have to come up with a truth bomb dictionary if we're going to keep renaming everything.
Yeah, I know. We're going to have the truth bomb female business dictionary, right? This is what a vision board is for men. This is actually what it's called for women. This is what it's called for men. This is what we've had to translate it into for women. We've had to give it a new meaning. We got to give it a new experience because what we recognized was that languaging wasn't serving women. The language that we use to talk to women around the world of business, there is some that remains. And then there's some that needs to change.
But yeah, it really is incredible how when you stop and really think about the words we use and the meanings behind them, it's like it's really actually kind of fun when you're I don't care what religion you are, but we're reading the Bible right now, but we have 2 different translations.
Oh yeah.
and so
mine actually has the word intercourse in it.
Mine, you just lay with the lady.
You lay with an individual. I'm laying with my husband. I'm laying with my wife. I'm like, no, they're having intercourse.
It really is fascinating though. When you're reading, it essentially means the same thing, but you're using different words and it hits you differently.
Very much so.
It like you internalize it differently when they're using a different word. Like her Bible this morning used, we're talking about the 12 plagues when the Israelites were getting away from the Egyptians, and they had her Bible had the word abhorrent. Mine had the detestable. Detestable?
Yeah, detestable. It was a detestable thing. Mine was like abhorrent.
Abhorrent. I mean, essentially they mean the same thing, but abhorrent is a much stronger word than detestable.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I just find it fascinating. And so that's what we're doing here inside Truth Bomb Academy. We're looking at the words we use and how does that feel? What does that mean for women in business? And what I mean versus how the men interpret it.
Yeah.
And neither one is right or wrong, but sometimes it actually deters us from what we're trying to achieve because of how the word is and what the specific word is and how women interpret that word specifically.
Yeah. Because the languaging is important.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The languaging, as I've discovered, is more important than anything else. And when you can understand and use language for women to describe or explain what they're up to in business, they have a different sense behind it. It gives them back so much confidence. It gives them back so much of themselves that they think is wrong, missing, incomplete, shameful, blameful, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's been the fun, interesting part around that, is just really looking at not only what it means to be a female entrepreneur, because I really do think there's a distinction between a female entrepreneur and a male entrepreneur. And for too long, we've been taught the male entrepreneurship way, and we've been trying to become a female inside that male entrepreneur way, but it's not serving us around that because the language doesn't match what women feel. If men are visual creatures and women are emotional creatures, then you have to look at how do you present business education in a emotional way. But when we hear emotional, we think, oh my God, they're bitchy. That's not what I'm talking about emotional. We've had a lot of discussion around words that we've been told are have almost a negative connotation to it. So when we hear the word, oh, it's an emotional piece, a lot of times we're crying, we're in mood swings, we're in rage, we're in that. And that is actually not what we're talking about at all.
I think that's why so often when you talk about business decisions, there always is like, look at the numbers, not your emotions. This is not an emotional decision. It's like, don't fall in love with the house you're buying. Do the number, if it's an investment property, do the numbers make sense? And it's just like, I always had the hardest time. I'm like, how do I disconnect my emotions when that's who I am from this financial decision? And I get it. The numbers have to make sense for an investment. You don't want to just buy something because it's pretty. It's pretty and it makes you feel good. And it's like, and I get that. And I think that's why they say it's like, emotions don't belong in business. But when, I
call BS.
I call BS on that too.
Yeah, because you've even said like there were times when the numbers looked great, but you felt like this was not a good investment.
Yeah, there was times it's like the numbers were fantastic, but something felt wrong about it to me. Something I was like, if this was my choice alone, I would be like, nope, next.
Yeah. But yeah, it just makes you coffee when you think about it, right? Just like it gets you all caught up in here in your chest, and you're like, oh, you gotta knock this out.
Yeah, but it's just like but the numbers look beautiful.
Yeah.
So you move ahead with it, even though in your gut something doesn't feel right. Listen, I think women have an intuition that is given to us, and I know some women feel it more than other women. I've probably one that I was like, most of the time I don't understand it when people say that my intuition told me or my intuition told me not to. I'm like, how do you know that? Like, where does that feeling come from?
That's like manifesting. Right? We've got one of our students like, what's manifesting? How do I do it faster, better, or whatever? It's like we don't even know for ourselves.
Well, I think, and so often it's like we haven't, like I have felt things and I've ignored them because I didn't trust myself.
Yeah.
And it's like, and when you don't trust yourself, it's like you're not in tune to those gut feelings, those intuitions, those nudges one way or another, because we ignore them, because we push them aside as like, you don't really know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. You can down talk yourself all day long. We're all really good at it. Stop it.
Our negative self-talk as women is phenomenal.
It is. And I think it's like, I have had those intuitive feelings, but I have shut them down. In the past. And so it's like, and then when you're like, oh, I want to listen to you now, come back. They're like, they're a little quiet at first.
Well, and it ties back to like when you look at the vision board or the manifesting board, right? Or you look at like how women approach it, I really do, one of the things we did for Time Magic 2024 is that we don't just have you create the board. I think so many times everyone just has you dive in to what it is. It's like, all right, just create your boards, like find your pictures and everything else. What we actually had you do is we actually had you go on the journey to create your experiences. Why were these important to you? We had some really great questions that we discovered, but still had to refine for the female.
Yeah.
We actually still had to go through and change the language of the questions that we were asking women, because you recognize that these questions felt very masculine and they got us anxious in a lot of ways. The way that we asked these questions, or the terminology that was used, or the word that was used, created anxiety, created this sense of doubt. It created this sense of unworthiness. It created this sense of, I don't have anything to say to that, right? And what was interesting, because I've been doing this for 4 years. So once we started changing some of the words, oh my God, it was like a whole new world opened up for women.
Yep.
And it was crazy because when you look at them side by side, here's the man's version, here's the woman's version, however you wanted to come at it, but it really opened up the doors where most of us got stuck around certain things. We weren't getting stuck anymore. We were writing like nobody's business. Like we finally heard the question that was being asked, then we heard it in a way that connected us emotionally to the response instead of analytically to the response, which is what most of the vision boards are. They're analytical side. If I do this, I'll have this. If I do this, I'll have this. And what we looked at when we were talking with women is that when you get back to your core and you create your vision board around your core essentials, the 7 areas of your life, and you look at family and recreation time and downtime and taking care of yourself and the pleasures that you're granting yourself in your life. I still have a hard time with that word, by the way. That word still, I'm trying to use it more to get rid of that crazy language and thought in my head. I'm trying to break the loop. You know the word. It's pleasure. Yeah, the word pleasure. Even when I say it, it still go right there, right? Well, so one of the things that
this brings me pleasure.
That brings
this
you pleasure.
Brings me pleasure.
I like it.
I love colors.
So color brings you pleasure.
Color brings me pleasure. That's why when I look at all when you look at houses to shop for, you're looking at houses to live in, and they're like pure white, solid white, and like it, even though it's like gorgeous house, it's not. It makes me feel empty.
Yeah, it's sterile.
So yeah,
it really is sterile.
I'm like, I just want to take a can of paint and go.
I'm gonna wait to see that. I'm gonna be like, so I'm going over to Heidi's house. Wow, that's what just happened in here. Okay, thank God you can always continue to do this, right? But this is like where it's the word pleasure for me. That was a hard word that we just learned, or we were starting talking about this year, because we've been diving into language. And pleasure, when women hear about it, at least when I hear about it, so I'm not even going to generalize for women. I don't know what you hear when I say the word pleasure.
I hear sex.
Right there. No, you're not wrong. And I don't even have it that I can experience pleasure, because if I'm experiencing pleasure, it's still about sex. Right? Like I am so trained to associate pleasure with sex, and not even good pleasure.
No.
Most of the time.
It's usually pleasure for you think, at least in my brain. And it's like, I think it was like, it's pleasure for the guy. It's sex, it's pleasure it's like, he wants this pleasure.
Yeah, he's gonna get pleasure. I'm just there to be, I guess, the body in the way. I don't know, right? So pleasure for me has just a really bad connotation. I really struggled with the word pleasure. And then when we were reading a book recently, they defined pleasure as what makes you as a woman happy.
Feel good.
What makes you feel good? That's what it is. Not even happy. It's what makes you feel good as pleasure. And so we actually really, like the both of us, because we want to continue this conversation around this, when we looked at what pleasure was for us, like that first sip of coffee in the morning, that's pleasure, right? And really taking out of the sexual content that has been so given to us. And I'm going to go turn off my phone. I apologize. It's just making noise in the background. But learning how to use pleasure and express it for me as a female, right? Understanding what pleasure is for me, and that my pleasure is my pleasure, right? Heidi's pleasure is Heidi's pleasure. That pleasure is not a sexual word. And I'm telling you, we've been at this, I've been trying to use this word for the last 2 weeks. It's 14 days, and I'm still trying to rewire that mindset. That I know it's a trigger right there. It's like pleasure, oh, sex for him. Like, right? Because we talk about the feeling, thinking, or the believing, thinking, feeling loop, right? We talk about that a lot inside of both Time Magic and inside of Unlocking My Millions, because we recognize that how we think and how we've been programmed as women is the one thing we have to start going to work on. Is how to unprogram our conversations or beliefs that we have, and really look at and own the language that we have as women. And that's been the fun part around all of this. So when I look at, I thought about calling it the pleasure board, but I still have a hard time when I say that. I'm like, so women have pleasure boards, right? And men have vision boards. And even saying that, I'm like, oh, like
my adventure board.
Yeah, but adventure experience is like everything else. It doesn't include that human, like I'm getting the right tingle for like saying like the feminine side says, oh, I like a pleasure board, right? Like she's over here going, oh, you don't, but I like pleasure board. Like, why can't I have a pleasure board? And yet I still say that I'm thinking like sex bonds, games, dungeons.
Well, maybe if you put it up there, though, you'll start to associate the word with something else. When you stare at it with all these other things under it that are not sex.
Yeah, so it's so interesting. It's like, could we re-language it and be, this is for women, it's a pleasure board, right? Because pleasure is spending time with family. Pleasure is travel with friends and women and other people in our lives. Pleasure is about how clothes feel on us. Pleasure is about being in jobs that we love that make a difference. Pleasure is about, connecting with mentors that impact us, that help us take our emotions, our feelings, our the wants in the world and bring them to life. So as I'm saying this, like I'm definitely getting like a body sensation, like, okay, maybe this is where I need to go. And yet my analytical brain still goes, oh, they're all going to think it's about sex board. And I'm like, it's not a sex board, it's a pleasure board. And yet as women, we've been made to make that such a dirty word that doesn't serve us, as opposed to shifting that language and saying, no, we are allowed to have pleasure.
I'm going to write that all in sparkles.
You put pleasure board? I really do. I now want to go to my board and be like, pleasure board, right?
It's going to be all in sparkles.
It's going to take something. It really is. It's going to take a whole body shift to have that. But I was thinking, it's like, why not have those textures, those sensations, those feelings? Like, does the board stay two-dimensional, or does it, for women, need to come into like a 3D, 4D reality for us?
It could be. I like colors.
Yeah.
This could be on my pleasure board.
It could be on your pleasure board. And the fact that it's got money in it, I think could be like, I like pretty things that have money in them.
And texture.
And the texture of it, right?
And it's got like little tiny like mirrors, so it does sparkle. And then it's got like purple and green on the other side.
Nice.
It's really cool.
So the thing is like we so are restricting ourselves so many times to just images and family or friends, but it's like, what if we need a pleasure board? Things that like tactile, things that engage our senses as women, so that we do experience and bring that pleasure into our life instead of just the doing that we constantly experience.
Yep.
I'm just saying,
I like it.
This is a whole nother like conversation, because men typically create very analytical boards. These are the things I want to achieve. This is what I'm going to have. This is the house that's going to provide for my family. This is the car I'm going to drive to show that I've got this type of thing. This is the type of experience that I want. And they're very visual around that. So I can understand vision board, but then it's on the flip side. What does it look like for women? And I truly think it's a pleasure board. It's the experience.
The more you say that, the more I like it.
The more you like it?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like my female side is here, like I'm at war with myself. Half my body is going, no, and the other half is going, ooh, right? It's like,
yeah, there's a little bit of that, but the ooh side is winning out.
Yeah. So having a pleasure board, just experiencing, and I think you can still take that feng shui that way, because I do believe in blending that culture and those things. But really, I think the experience for women is to have a pleasure board, not a vision board.
Well, the blend in is what we've been doing. Because it's like, it's like we talk about the men's education, business education, and how it's doesn't work for women, but you can't just throw it out because it's proven to work. I mean, look at the successful businesses that are in this world. And it's just like, and it's because it's definitely proven to work. So it's about blending what women need back into that.
Yeah.
It's not throwing it out. You don't, it's taking it and then adding what the women need back in it to it.
Because there's the structure that is there. It's just how do we, like, we talked about that. There was a great comment from a lady that we interviewed just recently on our previous podcast around grants. So if you guys have not had a chance to listen to Did She Really Say That? We have Natalie on there that's a grant writer. She gives some fantastic, phenomenal. I was trying to combine the words. Information around women and doing business and grants that are available to us, right? And she was talking with a mentor of her, another female mentor. She goes, we are in a construct that wasn't made to include women.
Well, she was using the word, I feel like an imposter.
I feel like an imposter.
And her mentor was like, stop saying that. Take that out of your vocabulary because you're in a construct. You're in a world that wasn't made for you.
Mm-hmm. As a female.
Yeah.
It wasn't made to include you.
It wasn't made to include you. So we're building businesses the way men have taught us, which definitely work. It works. And the women that it has worked for are pretty much women they're men in a woman's body.
They're tapped into a high masculine energy.
Yes, they've turned down their feminine and they've been what the men wanted her to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but how many of us, now some people thrive in that. There are a few women who will thrive in that. Most of us don't.
Yeah.
And most of us are like,
how do I get back into being in that feminine energy? Because we don't know, because we've got no one teaching us how to get back into that feminine energy.
Because feminine energy is powerful.
That's what attracts the men
in the boardroom. What I've heard recently, it was like I was listening to something and they were talking about how they're in the boardroom, they're actually looking for more women. They want more women in the boardroom because it creates a camaraderie. It creates the questions that women bring up. Women are like, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't look right. What about this? What about that? Whereas the men in the boardroom are all quiet.
They're posturing.
They're posturing and they want to appear like they have it all together. And sometimes a woman will come along and be like, and they bring up things that nobody thought about before.
They'll ask the questions and they'll even admit, I don't know the answer to that. So let's go find out. Who do we know that can help us? Like, we have no problem saying, I don't know the answer.
Yep.
I don't know what that looks like. Does anyone have any input? And then we get that conversation going because we're looking for input. We're looking to make a better situation. We're trying to improve upon it. And a lot of times, and even one of the CEOs in that article that I was reading said, you know what, there's never a quiet boardroom with a woman, but there will be quiet boardrooms with men.
And when you get that conversation going, things get brought up that were previously ignored.
Yeah, there's a shift that happens.
Yep. And so they are looking, it's like they even the men recognize they need that feminine energy in the room.
You know what's really interesting? I remember us reading Think and Grow Rich way back when, like last year we sat down and read Think and Grow Rich. And the one part that stood out to me was when they talked about masterminds. They said, if you want a successful mastermind, make sure there's a female in the room. They said, because the importance of the female is that she helps connect. So while there's always the conversation, having all men in one room in a mastermind is fantastic. But the moment you introduce a female, she brings another level of energy, of thinking, of creativity that by my men themselves do not experience. So it is a piece. And I think when we as women are stepping into entrepreneurship and into business, and we try to match the male vibration for vibration and energy and everything they're doing. So if the males are doing this at this energy level, we have to do it at that energy level. Instead of saying, wait, the guys are here, I'm going to come in as a female and I'm going to come in strong and ask those questions because I know that's what's needed. And not stepping back down from that, but stepping into that.
Mhm.
Right. And I think that's where women, as we get back into our bodies and as we get back connected to ourselves and we recognize that we are that feeling, um, pleasure gifting woman that has our own desires, wants, needs, and we bring that into the world, there we create another dimension, another space. And I was talking with a guy the other day. I have somebody that's kind of looking at my branding. I said, we have a male parallel business training here. I said, now we're just trying to get the female business training here. So like we have two parallel lines. And across this, we need to teach women how to be strong in business because men already know how to be strong in business. And then inside of that, create the chains or the ladders between the two, and then start teaching men the female language. But first, women have to understand their language.
Mm.
You can't teach men something that women don't know, because the one thing there was what we were listening to, the one thing it's like where the unanswered question is, what do women want?
Yes, because women don't even know what they want.
Ah,
It's like,
right.
when women have to actually start listening to their bodies again, listening for what you want.
Yeah.
Because we've been so attuned to listening to what the man wants. And it's like, and now, like in the last several years, it's like women have been speaking up more. Women have, but when you actually realize what a woman wants, because who was it? It was Freud. It was like
Sigmund
Freud's
Freud.
ultimate question was this like,
Well, what do women want?
what to know what a woman wants is elusive.
Yeah.
It's like if Freud couldn't figure out what women want.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's
and he was working with a female counterpart because she was like, something's broken. I mean, sexually, whatever, like, I can't figure out what I want. He's like, if you women knew what she wanted, if women know what they want and were able to communicate that to other women, other men, the humanity around them, there would be a whole new place to play. So when I look at, vision boards, which we've been talking about, when I look about business, it's really what we've created inside of Unlocking My Millions is for women to get unlocked, to find their voice, to unlock their pleasures, to know what they want, and really own that this is what they want in their life and speak up around that, right? So it's not just the world of business. This is where we had to blur a lot of things that we would told our, what'd you call it? New age in your background? Like this is new age stuff that's going on out there, right?
everything that wasn't normal with new age.
So we have to blend like what the beliefs are around what is considered pleasure for women, getting them centered back in, getting them present, living in the moment again, instead of worrying about what's going to happen or fearful of somebody else's opinions of themselves, and really getting women to own confidently. So I think the pleasure board, and the more I say that, you're right, it does kind of sound better. The pleasure board as versus the vision board is the woman's way to express what she wants in the world. So instead of trying to use the same language as the guys does to express what a woman wants, it looks like, what does the pleasure board look like? What does that look like in terms of what she wants in her life? Because if she can have that in her life, then I promise you, you will attract and draw to you the man who has a vision of having you and your business or your life or your family in his life. And I think that's really where we're going to have to sit with that. That's the wrap for this one.
I love it.
Yeah. So for those that are watching or catching the replay, if you are catching the replay, definitely let us know you're watching the replay. If you found value in this, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel because we love when you guys do that. And we love our conversation. So if you're joining us live and you have anything to share, we absolutely want to hear from you. We love the engagement. We're always watching. Just so you know, there's like the phone down here on the side. We're like looking for comments.
Smash the subscribe button.
Smash the subscribe button.
Smash
the subscribe button. My thing doesn't do like the thumbs up.
I know.
It's weird.
Good thing it doesn't do
And then
twice.
if you really want to look at a new way to approach your vision board, ladies, and you're thinking, okay, there's got to be a way if I want to manifest, if I want to bring more, then I do invite you in to check out our Time Magic training. It is truthbombmarketing.com/magic. This is going to teach you how to create magic in your life. It's going to teach you how to define what it is that you want, write it out in words, create it with images, really get a sense of who you are. At the end of the day, that is the most important piece. Discover yourself, and inside of that, be authentically you. And yeah, well, we haven't changed inside the training yet. I think pleasure board is going to be the new way we go rocking forward. So thank you all for joining us. Again, my name is Chef Katrina with Truth Bomb Marketing. This is our co-host in crime, Heidi.
Heidi.
And oh yeah, she just did that. So you want to join us? We have a podcast that goes live every Thursday. You're going to want to tune into this week. We are talking
live on Monday.
Oh, went live on Monday.
We recorded on
Sorry. So we have a podcast that just came out yesterday. You absolutely want to dive into this. It's all about branding and website design. Things that you definitely want to know if you are now in the age of building out websites. But first and foremost, women, start creating your pleasure boards. Head over to truthbombmarketing.com/magic. There'll be a link down in the description below. And with that, we will have some fun. So thanks for joining us. Have a great day, everybody. And we'll see you hopefully